My phone lit up with hundreds of notifications, DMs, emails, messages across platforms I hadn't checked in 3 days. I scrolled through them, and the tone shifted. Supportive, then worried, then demanding, then furious, then desperate. This wasn't a friend checking in. This was something else entirely. And the worst part? My wife had tried to warn me months before any of this, and I'd called her jealous. The pandemic hit my business hard, so I did what a lot of people were doing. I turned to social media. I started posting my work, building a presence, staying visible so that when things opened back up, people would remember my name. I didn't expect it to take off the way it did. By the time lockdown ended, I had future work booked all over the country. I'd built real rapport with my followers through post engagement. Some reached out through DMs to discuss hiring me. One of them was this woman. I'd traveled for a corporate collaboration, a public event, and she showed up in person, wanting to see my work firsthand. We got chatting, loads in common. She added my personal profile, and we messaged now and then. She eventually hired me for the following year. She made a couple of complimentary comments on photos of me, called me handsome, said she liked my smile. I didn't think much of it. Then my personal trainer posted a video of me training, tagged me in it, song playing in the background. Within minutes, this woman was in my DMs saying it was a shame I wasn't single, because she'd like to get physical with me. I told her straight. I wasn't interested in her like that, and that would be true even if I wasn't married. She got stroppy, said I couldn't take a joke. I replied that I valued the friendship we were building and her business, but I didn't appreciate it. She pulled back on the messages after that. I put it down to embarrassment and moved on. I should have moved on entirely. A few months later, my wife and I were having serious difficulties. We separated. In my industry, news like that travels. She was straight back in my DMs. But she was kind, offered support. We started talking more regularly, and honestly, it was good to have someone to talk to. She confided that she was unhappy in her own marriage. I expressed empathy. She asked about mine. I was honest with her. I told her I'd been a lousy husband, that I'd taken my wife for granted, that my wife had been the driving force behind getting my online presence off the ground, working every hour to support our family through the pandemic. And once things took off, I'd become overly focused on my followers, on content, on expectations I'd created for myself. I'd prioritized all of that over her. I told this woman that my wife had packed my bags, and I'd had no one to blame but myself. I was clear about my intentions. My wife was my heart and soul. I'd asked her to join me in marriage counseling. I wasn't available. I wasn't interested. I wasn't looking. I said all of that, directly, more than once, and she seemed to accept it. We talked about music, films, all kinds of things. She'd ask how things were going with my wife. I'd keep the private details vague out of respect, but I was always open about the fact that I was fighting to get back to the woman I loved. I thought I'd made a decent friend during one of the harder stretches of my life. One evening, I was at my wife's. I'd put the kids to bed, and we were just talking, laughing about old memories. We started to relax into each other in a way we hadn't in months. It felt like something was shifting. Then my phone lit up, a notification on the arm of the couch. My wife saw it before I could register what it said. Are you still with her? DM back when you're alone. My wife's face changed. I could see exactly what it looked like, and I knew I had nothing to hide. So I insisted she read the full message thread. She didn't want to. She'd always respected my privacy. But eventually she agreed. It made things worse. Not because of anything I'd written. She could see my side was innocent. But she started pointing things out on the other side. The way this woman phrased things, the playlists she'd sent me, the subtle undercurrent running through her messages. My wife has a sharp eye for people. She sees what sits beneath the surface. And what she saw was a woman who was angling. I told her she was reading too much into it. I accused her of being jealous. My wife looked at me and said, "When have I ever had a problem with your female friends?" She was right. She never had. Not once. She also pointed out something I hadn't noticed. I hadn't spoken to any of my actual female friends about our separation because I knew they'd hold me accountable. This woman had said things like, "There must be a reason you stopped caring," and "You talk about your wife like she's some kind of angel. Nobody is that pure." My wife said she thought the woman was trying to quietly dismantle my accountability. We argued. I defended the friendship. My wife left the next morning to visit a friend out of town with the kids, a trip she'd already arranged to rest and recharge. It wasn't a good way to leave things. I was angry enough that I called my sister to vent. She suggested I shouldn't engage with this woman while my wife was away, that it would be disrespectful, and that we should raise the issue with our therapist when my wife returned. I agreed. It wasn't like we messaged every single day anyway. That's not how it went. I'd already mentioned to this woman that my wife was going away. The day she left, I got a message. I didn't open it. I turned notifications off across everything except direct phone calls in case my wife needed to reach me. I stayed off social media except to check my business page stats. 3 days in, I had to update my phone. The process switched my notifications back on. My phone erupted. DMs, emails, messages across multiple platforms, contact form inquiries sent through my website. The same questions, over and over. Where are you? Why aren't you replying? Have you gone away with her? What have I done? You owe me an explanation. Audio calls, video calls, and we had never once spoken by phone. All of it sent in 3 days. Even my own wife had never once spoken to me like that. At the end of it, she told me to cancel the work she'd booked with me. I messaged her back. I told her I didn't check my messages for a couple of days, and that was her reaction. She came back saying I was being unprofessional, that she had me booked for work. I replied that not one of those messages had been about the job. They were all personal, and given her behavior, I was happy to cancel. A few days later, she sent groveling apologies. Her own marriage difficulties, she said. Short temper. Then she went quiet. Then she disappeared from social media completely. Then I had a new follower, male profile, scene photo instead of a face. Left positive comments on my business page, but spoke like he already knew me. I couldn't place him. I asked in a reply whether I knew him. He didn't respond. He just deleted all the comments and went quiet. I asked my wife to look at the profile. She found nothing at first. It was completely locked down. But a few days later, this woman sent me a friend request from what appeared to be a new profile. My wife looked at it and confirmed. It was the same profile. The name had been changed. I ignored the request. She was supposed to be attending an industry function I was going to. I was there to promote my work. I asked my wife to come with me. We took the train, stopped overnight. We posted a photo of ourselves on the journey. Within minutes, she was in my DMs saying she wouldn't make it. Her mother was sick. I replied politely but briefly that I hoped her mother recovered. I left it at that. The function itself was strange. Industry people who'd previously shown interest in working with me were pulling back. People were being unusually attentive toward my wife in a way that felt protective. My wife doesn't let things like that sit. She asked people directly what was going on. It turned out there was a rumor circulating that our separation had been caused by an affair on my part, that I had been unfaithful. People who respected my wife were shocked she'd taken me back, and some were quietly worried about her. Nobody knew where the rumor had started, but apparently it was common knowledge. Everyone knew, everyone except us. My wife was devastated. We'd been making real progress. I had been preparing to move back home, and now she was sitting with doubt she didn't have before. Weeks passed. Then someone who'd been at the function reached out to my wife directly. She told her that this woman, the one I thought was my friend, had been the one spreading the rumor. She'd taken personal things I'd confided about my own failings and told people my wife had been putting that information out. She'd framed my wife as the source. She'd implied the separation was caused by an affair. These two women had never spoken to each other in their lives. My wife had also received a bunch of flowers around the time the rumors had started from an unknown sender. We believed the intention had been to make my wife look like the unfaithful one. But people had assumed the affair was mine instead. The hospital admissions we'd heard whispers about. She'd only mentioned them to people she knew would pass the information to me. Her close friends didn't seem to know anything about any of it. She'd never explained what she was actually there for, only that she was very ill. I went back and read every message she'd ever sent me. I hadn't led her on. Quite the opposite. I'd spoken about my love for my wife constantly, about how hard I was working to repair what I'd broken. But reading with new eyes, I could see it. She'd monitored my patterns. She'd worked out when I was likely to be alone, and that was when she'd message. Any deviation from my usual routine sent her into a spiral, because she needed to know where I was and who I was with. She'd spent so much time asking about my wife that she'd started to quietly mirror the things I said I loved about her. She'd even begun changing her appearance. Seeing that, knowing what I now knew, was deeply unsettling. And going back to the very beginning, that joke early on about wanting to get physical, that should have been the end of it. That was the moment to close the door. I didn't see it. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself my wife was being jealous when she tried to show me what was right in front of me. We chose to cut contact completely. No responses, no acknowledgments, nothing. She still surfaces occasionally. A message here. Something strange that we can't quite prove. There's never been quite enough for the police to act on. Not yet. My wife and I got through it. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick. The rumor did real damage. My relationships with my older children were strained for a time. Some business relationships that had been building went cold. But we got through it. I've thought about this a lot. What I could have done differently. Where I should have drawn the line. The moment that joke came in, that was it. That was when I should have stepped back from any kind of personal communication and kept things strictly professional. I didn't. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, told myself it was a misstep, and carried on. And later, when my wife sat across from me and pointed to the patterns in those messages, I called her jealous. She was right. She had been right from the start. I think the hardest thing about this kind of situation is that there's nothing dramatic at first. It builds in small moves. A compliment here, a well timed DM there, just enough sympathy, just enough mirroring. By the time the pattern is visible, you're already inside it. This woman's actions came close to costing me my marriage, my relationship with my children, and my business. The damage to my mental health has been quieter but real. I find it hard to trust new friendships. I second guess business relationships I shouldn't have to question. I carry a low level worry about what she might do next. I don't say any of this for sympathy. I say it because I was naive, and I ignore the person who knew me best when she was trying to help me see clearly. Trust the people who've earned it. And when someone shows you who they are early, believe them. If this one stayed with you, if you've ever dismissed someone's warning only to realize later they were seeing exactly what you couldn't, drop it in the comments. I read everyone. If this story was worth your time, a like helps someone else find it. And subscribe so you're here for the next one.